Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the movie The Sheep Detectives on Amazon Prime. I'd seen the trailer for this and I was interested in it, but I saw that it just randomly kind of popped up and I'm like, alright, let's see how this works. And I really enjoyed it. It's a really good thriller, murder mystery kind of thing going on, and I think the concept of like the sheep's trying to solve the murder and everything kind of going on is executed pretty well. You're like, all right, this is done by the dude who directed the Minions, whatever. It's probably going to be crap. But it follows, like, if you're into those kind of thriller mysteries or trying to figure out what's kind of going on, kind of Ocean style, this does it very well. I mean, it doesn't do anything really kind of crazy. I mean, other than having the others be like the sheeps and having them be the kind of outside kind of perspective as we're kind of going through this in the town. But it does it very well. Like, if you'd ask me to bring up like a modern day example of a decent thriller murder mystery kind of solver kind of thing, I'd be like, right here. It fits with the kind of Sherlock trying to figure out what's kind of going on kind of thing. So we see Hugh Jackman's character George tending his sheep in this Denbrook place, and we see him talking to his sheep. Kind of like taking care of them, giving them this weird kind of blue thing for like this orph. That becomes important later on, but we see that he takes care of them, names them all. He's writing this letter to this Rebecca person, like, all right, who's this? Telling this person all about the sheep and all that, and what's kind of going on with them, and that he reads murder mysteries to them, and he picks inconvenient spots sometimes. And I love that that's the first kind of take as we get into the sheep's world as they talk to them, and as they're talking, and we kind of learn what's kind of going on with them. Ah, he had to stop there, and then we see that Lily is the kind of main one, the smartest one. And Lily is played by Elaine from Seinfeld. And it's like, all right, cool. Let's kind of work on this. We also have Patrick Stewart as this crazed ass old goat. Bryan Cranston is the kind of Sebastian black goat that's kind of like watching over people. And we kind of get an understanding of their kind of dynamics, that the sheep actually have this kind of defense mechanism where if something fucks with them, they will erase it from their memory. And it's like, okay, that could be pretty inconvenient because we learned that they don't have an understanding of death, and that what they do for them, except for this one, let's see, Mopple. Mopple's the only one that doesn't forget and carries this big burden of understanding of what's kind of going on, because everybody else thinks that the sheep turn into clouds. He understands that they die, and that he keeps the good and bad and kind of balances it out. That's kind of an important part that we get throughout this movie. But we see that there's a lot more that we go on, that the sheep aren't really accepting of outsiders. We see that they kind of accept Sebastian, but we also see that this whole concept of the winter lamb and everything, it's like, because we get this little one that like is trying to play, but like, no, you're a winter lamb. It's like, what the fuck, motherfucker? But getting that kind of introduction, I'm like, crap, everything kind of going on a little bit nutty. But we see that Sebastian is one of those as well. He has a fucked up life as well, as we learned that he was in part of a circus, and that they would pet him and feed him and everything, and then at night they would have him fight dogs, and that George was the one that came and saved him, but he still doesn't feel that he is part of the flock because of how they treat winter lambs and everything. And we see that Lily is a good sheep, but you're like, well, wouldn't that kind of I love that they kind of hit, like, you know what humans call dumb people? Sheep. How it would be inconvenient to forget stuff like that. Well, she kind of moves along the kind of same lines as Mopple as the film progresses. So we see that he's taking care of them. We see this one dude kind of pop in for the cultural festival. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And of course, I kind of pegged him as the kind of outside kind of influence, but I was right for the wrong reasons. Like, I was right to peg him, but there were different reasons that kind of involved what was kind of going on. Because we see this dude kind of pop up, like, all right, what's kind of going on here? We get everybody introduced pretty much. We see Varys from Game of Thrones as this meat dude who fucking hates vegans. It's like, Jesus, I mean, sure, your business is meat, but fuck off, man. I mean, he tends the sheep. We see this Caleb dude, this preacher guy, and this woman who seems to be kind of nosy. We, of course, get the dumb kind of sheriff that's kind of involved. Let's see. Tim Derry, the clumsy local police officer. It's like, all right. We see things kind of going a little bit nutty at George's place. He's living in a caravan, and then we see that he's dead. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? We see that this woman pops up with an attorney played by, let me see, Emma Thompson, I believe. Yes, she's great as the solicitor. But we see everybody kind of learning what's going on. We see that Tim doesn't go into the caravan until, like, pretty much Elliot, the kind of junior reporter who was there for the cultural festival. But it's like 3 kind of tents, and then it's like, all right, $10. It's like, okay. He wanted something to kind of get off the kind of obituary stuff that he was having. But it's like, all right, what's going on here? You've been on the obituaries desk. It kind of threw up a red flag. But we see the sheep are trying to figure out what's going on with George, what was going on with the death. We see that Rebecca is his daughter, and that there was also a son involved, but he was in South Africa. And we see that we get this naming of this will, that there was a new will that was found, of course, always in a kind of murder mystery, laying out like all the people at play at the kind of will reading, except Elliot was not in the room. It's like, okay, what's kind of going on here? Because she did get the son from South Africa on the phone. It's like, it's not hitting right for me. Like, it's almost like what I would talk about with video games, where it's like, okay, if you've never played a video game, like a Bethesda video game, this will be a good Bethesda video game for your first one. This, if you haven't seen these ones before, you're like, all right, how's this kind of working out? Now, that's as an older kind of movie viewer, where you're like, all right, how's this kind of working out? Who's not involved? You kind of Scooby-Doo this shit. I mean, that's... Scooby-Doo's a pretty much prime example of trying to do those kind of mystery kind of things as well. Like, all right, but if you're not into it, I think it's a good gateway to see those kind of tropes in action, and this movie executes them very well in their own kind of way. As we see the sheep kind of looking outside, trying to figure out what's going on, Mopple, and we see this kind of green thing, because we saw a green hand that was on George, and we see this kind of green pillowcase thing. I'm like, what's kind of going on here? We of course link that he was poisoned by yew-berries, which are around everywhere, pretty much. And we learned that he's got like 30 million, a net worth of like 30 million. Now, he was going to give that to charity in the original will, but here it would be going to Rebecca. It's like, of course, painting her more as the one that had killed him to get the money. And this is because of the Orph medicine that he had that tinges his hands blue and everything like that. Let me see. Also, that Rebecca had visited them up there, as we see this like endless bracelet, of course, pointing more towards Rebecca as the one, as she had said that she hadn't been up there and that she doesn't have a boyfriend, because Tim's just gotta be stupid on that kind of stuff. And then seeing that the yew-berries are in Rebecca's boots as she had kind of went up there. It's like, okay, this is really painting a lot there. And it's kind of funny that the sheep are also trying to give clues and context to Tim to kind of help him solve the case, as we see him kind of working with Elliot to figure out what's kind of going on, utilizing this book to kind of like do stuff that you would think if you are a police officer, you would pretty much have to have gone through training to understand and ascertain at least that much from it. It's like, dude, fuck. However, I would still at least give kind of benefit to the doubt, because this is more of the local police, where you normally, 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with somebody that's like, you stole my cheese, you stole my lettuce, you stole my fork, you didn't give me back the shit that I lent you, motherfucker. And then having to watch some kind of drunk asshole fight, kind of, rah. Normally, if you're in that kind of small of a town, sure, yeah, but you still should have the understanding of somebody somewhere could potentially kill somebody, even accidentally. So you have to understand how to kind of work through that kind of process. But I kind of leave it off because it also is a nice introduction for people who maybe not aren't. This would be their first kind of mystery kind of one, to introduce them to the kind of thought processes to go through them. See, there are probably some other kind of movies that would just jump into it and execute the most crazed ass kind of thing and be like, all right, you guys are advanced. Let's see if you can follow along and see what's kind of going on here. This is more of, okay, this is what we got. We're going to execute it pretty well, and we're going to give you the understanding and the tools to kind of go through and see what we're doing. This also helps them do as much kind of misdirection as possible, because you're going to be like, that sounds kind of stupid. This is baby's first thing. Yes, but if it's executed and done this way, this can then help you lay red herrings that can throw people off the kind of trails depending upon what you're attempting to do here. Because we see the will reading, it's like, yeah, there's a victim here, there's two murderers, there's a fool, all that kind of stuff, and you're wondering who's who. And then we're learning all this kind of stuff. George had these kids, he had to give them up for adoption, and the church kind of just took them and did whatever. And of course, Bad Shepherd is the preacher dude, who we see like before George died, he's like, I'm just settling debts, giving all like this big chunk of money, because he paid him to pretty much get information on his kids for what was kind of going on and trying to reconnect with them. Let's see. So they're trying to kind of see what's kind of going on. They see that Caleb is probably going to take care of their flock and everything because they think everything's kind of done. And then they kind of go and kind of introduce themselves to Caleb's sheep, who are French, and tell them to run. As we see the German shepherds kind of pop up, they drive them into pretty much this meat place, and we see that George was having a tip with Caleb, right? Calling him bad because he had lied to him. And we see what that line was, of that he has a deal that he's doing with the butcher guy to kill the sheep. I was like, oh shit. So they run off, but we see that Sebastian pops up to protect them, and then he dies, and this of course links it into Lily's memory, and Mopple's like, you can't forget him, you gotta keep him. And of course we see that the rest of the sheep forget as well, and they don't want to remember that kind of stuff. And it's like, motherfucker. Let's see. Then, of course, Lily has a kind of dream of George telling her to find out who the real killer was. And then she starts linking this stuff up. Gets the help of the Winter Lamb to pretty much go to Rebecca and go through. And it's funny seeing these sheep, kind of like Lily trying to help guide the Winter Lamb. And pretty much seeing, okay, she's blue. Here's yellow. Where's the green come from? And Tim's like, all right. Now, pretty much getting into the position of setting her off to the court. But then he's like, hold up. And he starts kind of laying out all this stuff kind of going on. And how he wasn't there for the will reading and being like, he's got blonde hair. But is it natural? And see that he dyes it. He's like, oh, you're the one that poisoned him. There was a scuffle. He grabbed your hair. And of course, that's why it tinged green. And it's like, oh shit. And of course, getting the father's fortune as the next of kin, she would be hit for the murder, and he would go out free with the money. He attempts to flee, but of course we get the twin rams. They're like, can we bash it? Can we bash it? They were doing it the whole movie, and there's like, bash away. As they beat the unholy fucking shit out of that car, and they kind of drag his ass out. Well, not the rams, but they get him out, and she's released and everything, saying that she's going to stay. She takes care of the sheep and everything like that, changing to her father's surname. She even buys Caleb's French-speaking sheep, which is like, okay, is there a way for me to be able to get a bank to be able to do that to protect them? Because they came up and be like, hey, we'll buy your sheep off of you. It's like, you're gonna fucking murder him. No. Lily she sits down to read this book that George had actually wrote about handling sheep, and we see that Lily accepts the winter lamb and calls him George. And the thing is, Lily is named after the woman that George loved, because we see that she's talking with the owner of the kind of hotel and setter up of the cultural festival, and we've seen that she had taken one of Rebecca's letters, and that she had actually given George that stationery and was actually in love with him. But she was the kind of victim in that whole kind of bit. But then she's like, I wondered what the woman looked like that he loved, and I can just see her in you. And she kind of understands. And it's like, damn. But of course, you got the misdirect of her being like the nosy, creepy, kind of like, give me money, motherfucker kind of shit that's going on. But you kind of get through those throughout the entire movie as the kind of mystery gets solved and everything. And I liked the evolution of Tim. You get the bumbling kind of police officer, but then we see him kind of going through and actually doing the job that he's supposed to be doing, figuring out the real culprit of what's going on. And yes, he was helped by the sheep. They pretty much figured it out first. But he also was able to get dirt in his own way. And I kind of like that. I don't mind somebody starting off on kind of a back foot and getting into and understanding what they need to and gaining the knowledge to move forward and like stop certain kind of people from doing or stopping them from getting their whole kind of plans that they have done for ill-gotten gains. So I liked it. I liked everybody involved. Patrick Stewart was kind of crazy as the kind of old goat. We get everything kind of going on. There was almost a little bit too many goats, but not goats. Fuck. Sheep. Why am I going goats? Because, sorry, I'm also reading Count of Monte Cristo as well, and that was where the goats were coming in. But there's almost a little bit too many sheep, and you almost don't... You do get mileage out of Patrick Stewart and Elaine and Bryan Cranston, and the rest of the cast as well. I almost think they should have... they do a good enough job of keeping it mainly to Lily and Mopple, bringing in certain kind of ones to just kind of like change it up a little bit. So I could say that there's too many, but they didn't let that destroy their focus. They still kept the anchor characters of the kind of sheep that we knew were pretty much going to be utilized to solve the case. So it doesn't go completely out there, but it's almost like you really didn't need to spend so much on like certain kind of actors that you really didn't utilize that much. You know what I mean? Like, there's still certain ones that got a lot, that got some voice lines, but it's like, Like, the Bryan Cranston one was interesting to showcase off George's good-naturedness of helping out that sheep, the ram that was being used in, like, fucking animal fights. But you could have used anybody to do that, and I still think it would have worked well. Bryan Cranston does a great job with it, but I mean, it's still more in the background as we're trying to figure out who has murdered George. That would probably be my only kind of quibble. Same thing also kind of happens on the realms of the human characters. You don't really get much from the butcher. Caleb is only in there for certain kind of bits that kind of pop up because of his importance of being a separate herder, shepherd. The preacher as well. We do get certain kind of character movements and a little bit of understanding of them, but only in regards to how they can connect to the certain kind of central mysteries of what's kind of going on. So even though I really like this and enjoy this and would really recommend this to anyone, there's not a lot of blood, guts, and gore. I mean, yes, it deals with death and the concept of death, so that's a heavy kind of topic, but it's not like something where I'd be like, you can't really show a kid this. It's basic enough that you'd be really good to showcase off, and it would help with the kids to link up with the sheep and be like, hey, this is working out pretty well. And to give them something to kind of anchor in on and then expand out later on and be like, oh, okay, I really get this, and then get them interested in other kind of murder mysteries and stuff like that. So, those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, do you agree with me? You disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.